The year was 1220, and Samarkand stood like a jewel in the heart of Central Asia. Its walls, thick as mountains, rose defiantly against the shifting tides of war. The golden domes of its mosques shimmered beneath the setting sun, while the towering madrasas of Registan echoed with the wisdom of scholars. Merchants from China, Persia, and Byzantium filled its bazaars, their voices rising in a chorus of 1,000 tongues. But despite its splendor, a storm was coming. The Mongol army, led by the great Khan himself, Genghis Khan, had already reduced the cities of Bukhara and Otrar to ashes. Samarkand, the prized capital of the Khwarezmian Empire, was next in line for destruction. The Shah, Ala ad-Din Muhammad, had fled in disgrace, abandoning his people to their fate. And so, as the Mongol banners appeared on the horizon, a deep, suffocating dread settled upon the city. The Council of the Doomed. In the heart of Samarkand, at the Registan Square, the city's most powerful figures gathered for what would be their final council. The Emir of Samarkand, dressed in the silk robes that betrayed his trembling hands, sat upon a marble throne. The chamber was filled with generals, scholars, merchants, and clerics, all faces etched with fear. "The Mongols come," an aged vizier said, his voice hollow. "Their numbers are like grains of sand in the desert. We cannot stand against them." "We must fight!" cried Bahram al-Khwarezmi, the city's bravest commander. His armor, scarred from past battles, bore the insignia of the fallen Khwarezmian Empire. "Surrender is death. Do you not know what they did to Bukhara? They burned its libraries, butchered its scholars, and razed its mosques. We must fight to the last man." The emir's lips trembled. "But what if they show mercy?" Bahram laughed bitterly. "Mercy? You think Genghis Khan is a man of mercy? He punishes weakness. If we surrender, we die as cowards. If we fight, we die as men." Silence gripped the chamber. Some nodded, others lowered their eyes. Farid al-Din, a young scholar sitting at the far end of the council, listened in despair. He was not a warrior. His battlefield was the House of Wisdom, Samarkand's grandest library, where the words of Avicenna, Al-Khwarizmi, and Aristotle lay preserved on ancient parchment. He had spent his life in pursuit of knowledge, believing that books held the true power of civilization, but now he saw that no amount of knowledge could stop the unstoppable force that marched toward them. A scholar's secret mission. That night, as the city braced for war, Farid gathered a group of scholars inside the House of Wisdom. The flickering oil lamps cast long shadows over the towering shelves of manuscripts, filled with the secrets of medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy. "We cannot save Samarkand," Farid said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. "But we can save its soul." The scholars looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean?" Farid placed a hand on an ancient manuscript, one of the last copies of Al-Khwarizmi's work on algebra. "The Mongols burn libraries first. They fear knowledge. If they destroy this place, the wisdom of our ancestors will be lost forever. We must hide it." Together they worked through the night. Scrolls and books were wrapped in silk, placed inside clay jars and sealed with wax. They buried them beneath the ruins of the Temple of Anahita, an ancient Persian structure long forgotten beneath the city's foundations. "One day," Farid whispered as they sealed the last jar, "someone will find these, and they will know that Samarkand was once the heart of the world." The Siege of Samarkand. At dawn, the Mongol army arrived. The earth trembled beneath the hooves of 200,000 Mongol warriors. They came like a storm, black banners waving against the sun. Bahram and his soldiers fought bravely. Arrows darkened the sky, swords clashed, and the streets of Samarkand turned red with blood. The city walls, thought to be unbreakable, fell in days. The emir fled, abandoning his people just as the Shah had before him. The defenders, leaderless, were soon overwhelmed. The Mongols poured into the streets, massacring without mercy. Farid stood at the gates of the House of Wisdom, watching in horror as flaming torches were hurled into the library. The dry pages of thousands of manuscripts caught fire in an instant. The knowledge of generations turned to ash, rising like dying stars into the sky. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered a silent prayer. May the buried wisdom endure where men have failed. The aftermath. The Mongols rounded up the scholars, dragging them into the city square. Genghis Khan himself rode through the streets, watching impassively as his men carried out their slaughter. Bahram al-Khwarizmi was beheaded, his head displayed on a pike. The remaining soldiers were executed. As for the scholars, they were bound in chains and forced to march toward Mongolia. Farid was among them. As they trudged through the barren lands, he clung to one thought: the buried manuscripts beneath Samarkand. Centuries later, 700 years passed. The Mongol Empire had crumbled, new nations had risen, and Samarkand was rebuilt. But the memory of the House of Wisdom was lost to time. Until one day in the 21st century, an Uzbek archaeologist, excavating the ruins of the city, unearthed a set of sealed clay jars. When they were opened, the delicate parchments inside were intact, their words as clear as the day they had been buried. The world was stunned. Among the manuscripts were lost works of Avicenna, al-Khwarizmi, and other great minds, texts thought to have been erased by history. A young scholar reading one of the ancient scrolls found a final note, written in fading Persian script. To the one who finds this, know that Samarkand was once the heart of the world. We could not save our city, but we saved its soul. May you carry its light into the future. It was signed, Farid al-Din. And so, history was not only written by the victors, it was hidden by those who dared to defy oblivion.